Okay, let's start off with what this video is not going to be. So this video is not a step-by-step fat loss program. I'm not going to try and instill fear into you. I'm not going to try and fat shame you either. And this is not some fad BS, one trick that's going to solve all your problems nonsense that you often come across that never actually work. Now, what this video aims to actually be is something that's helpful, compassionate, thoughtful, root cause addressing, simple, and also memorable. So let's start by looking at what's actually holding you back from losing weight. I believe there's three things. The first one is a lack of knowledge. Okay. The second one is a lack of discipline. Now, there's some nuance there, so perhaps I'll call it just inaction. And the third one is a lack of care. And that third one, I believe, is the most important one out of all of them. So if you are at any point wanting to change out of this video, watch a different video, leave YouTube, whatever it is, please, for your own sake, please go to that last section on lack of care and listen to that, because I believe most people's problems lie in that third category. But nevertheless, if your problems do lie in either a lack of knowledge or a lack of discipline, I'm going to address that too. Okay, so let's start with this lack of knowledge. So we must first understand the basic mechanics of weight loss, weight gain, weight maintenance. It's calories in versus calories out. If the calories that you consume exceed the calories that you burn, then you will gain weight. If the calories that you consume is less than the calories that you burn, then you will lose weight. It's as simple as that. And if they're equal, then you obviously maintain your weight. So consumption of calories means that whatever food that you're eating has a certain caloric value. So a pizza, for example, is something that would be calorically dense. So there's a lot of calories in a certain amount of food. So 100 grams of pizza versus 100 grams of lettuce. That 100 grams of pizza has more calories than 100 grams of lettuce. So what you're aiming to do is find things that are low in calories for their weight, so that you aren't full, or rather so that you become full but you don't have an excess amount of calories, or so that you don't eat one chocolate bar and don't feel full but have consumed a lot of calories. So it's all about that. It's all about minimizing this caloric intake and maximizing the caloric out. So that's the exercising, the burning of calories. So you burn calories in two ways. There's your base metabolic rate that everyone burns if you didn't do any exercise or anything else. That's just because of you living, your breathing, your organs working to keep you alive. Now, on the other hand, there's also exercise and all these other things which burn calories in excess of that. So the more exercise you do, it can increase your calories out for that day. But then also in working out and exercising more increases muscle mass, etc. And all of these things can also increase your base metabolic rate. So what we want to do is make sure that our calories out is large. So we're exercising more, we're increasing our metabolic rate, and our calories in is decreased. So we're eating less, and of the things that we are eating, they're calorically sparse. Okay. So there's two things then for calories in and calories out that really are important. First is diet, and the second is exercise. Okay. Diet deals with those calories in, and exercise deals with increasing calories out. So your diet must be aimed at decreasing calories in. So the things that make a diet successful. So I'm not going to come here and say there's this perfect diet, you must go on keto, carnivore, whatever diet. I'm not going to go say that. Whatever works for you. But what you must look for in a diet is something that is easy to follow through on. The meals are easy to prepare. It's not going to be so insufferable that you're not going to be able to stick with it. You can have tasty meals on it, and you allow yourself some leniency. Those are the things that would make a diet successful. And then the things that make exercise successful is regularity and the progressiveness of it. So when I talk about regularity, what I'm meaning is that you are able to stick with the exercise on a regular basis, hence regularity. So what makes exercise regular is if it's fun. Maybe you find a buddy to do it with, so you have some sort of accountability system. There's lots of different ways. And also possibly another thing that's often understated is that your exercise is not utterly exhausting. A lot of the time what people do is they so in that pursuit of trying to increase their calories out, and they go for the most intense exercise because that's most effective after all, the highest calories burned. But then what happens is it's so exhausting you never want to come back, and then people just don't come back to exercise. So it has to be something that's going to keep you coming back regular. Now also with progressive. So what do I mean by progressive? So your exercise levels adjust as you become fitter and healthier. So you might not be able to run at the start, but you might be able to walk. So you start off walking, but you can't be walking 2 years down the line. You've got to eventually progress to jogging and so on and so forth. And the idea is that when you are progressing, you're progressing in a balance of the intensity and duration. Or maybe as another metric for duration, you could replace that with distance, or you could replace it with number of repetitions if you're gymming or whatever it is. So you're increasing in a balance of intensity and duration, or let's say intensity and volume. So what happens then is you might walk a certain distance to start out, and then the next day you might walk a little bit further, and then one day in the future you might increase it to a jog but have to cut the distance back down a little bit. So by cutting that distance back down, you would effectively be doing less, but because you're jogging, you're now increasing your level of exercise slightly, and you do that slowly and slowly until you're eventually running further distances. So that's the goal of it, and then you keep progressing, and there's essentially no end to that. Okay, so we need exercise to be regular and progressive. Okay, so that deals with basically the essence of a lack of knowledge. And with these things that I've told you for knowledge, you should be able to go and find resources and fit them into the framework that I'm giving you to whether it's going to be something worthwhile incorporating into your life or not. So let's deal with a lack of discipline now, or just inaction as I coined it. So not everything, or this process that you're going to be doing, your weight loss journey, it's definitely not going to be easy. But that doesn't mean that it has to be very hard or unlikely to succeed. It's something that you can almost guarantee your success in if you keep it simple and you stick with it long enough. So that's going to get to this lack of discipline, addressing that, and then also the last one, lack of care. Okay, so yes, some things will require your willpower and your discipline. So I'm not saying that by this thing, it doesn't have to be that you're unlikely to succeed, or it's not going to be easy, but it doesn't have to necessarily be really hard. It's something that you can do. I'm not meaning that it's going to not require willpower and discipline. And in fact, oftentimes you will have to rely on those to get yourself out of bed, to get yourself going. But if you rely on it majority of the time, it's bound to fail. How many times have we said we're going to do something and don't follow through? If we relied only on willpower or discipline, it would be a surefire way to fail in the long term. There's more to it than that. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so people love to attribute success to willpower and discipline, but oftentimes it's about how much the person cares, and in spite of continuously failing or their discipline failing them, at the end of the day they care a lot. So I'm going to get to that. Now, instead of willpower and discipline, then, if I've talked it down and I'm saying it, you shouldn't rely solely on that, then what do we use? So we use tools, systems, and habits. So for example, if you wanted to create a running habit, or you wanted to get into running was your thing. So the things that you do to make this as easy as possible, so that you don't have to rely as much on willpower and discipline, is to set out your kit, make it accessible, make it easy, reduce the friction. So you could find a running buddy that's on the same level as you to run with you, keep you accountable, make it more social, make it more fun, you want to come back more. Then you could also join a running club. That's also a great way, that has set times, and then there starts to become this social accountability thing where you didn't pitch on Wednesday, and if you don't pitch on Wednesday and you come on Friday, everyone's going to say, where were you on Wednesday? And you're going to have a good excuse for them. So it's best to join something like that, where it formalizes the process and you are encouraged to stay disciplined without having to really flex that muscle of discipline. Then you can also include things into your regime, like another tool, like trying not to skip more than 2 or 3 days in a row, whatever number you set that seems reasonable for you given the constraints of your life or your current level. Then another thing I really want to stress is, if you do fail, which is bound to happen, people always fail in their pursuits. I always fail in my pursuits, but the important thing I'm saying there is, in my pursuit, it's the end goal that we're trying to ensure the success of. If we fail on the way, that's fine. We learn from that and we can rebound from that, but it's the end goal that's really the thing that we're pursuing. So failing on the way is not a problem, and don't throw out the entire process if you do that. A lot of people say, oh, I've been so good, I'm on a 10-day diet streak, I've hit a caloric deficit for 10 days in a row, I'm doing so well, I've exercised 10 days in a row, and then the 11th day they slip up and now they want to throw out the whole process. Please don't throw it out on that 11th day. Make sure that this is not just a streak building exercise. This is actually you trying to improve your life, and it's not about the streak, it's about the fact that, oh my, look at me, I've done 10 days, I've banked 10 days of good work, good effort, and now I'm moving forward. And yes, I've slipped up once, but that's 1 out of those 11 days. It's not all of them. I've already done 10 good days. I've got 10 good days behind me. Let's keep going. It's not, oh, well, now I've slipped up, I'm done. And also the thing that we tend to forget is that out of those past 11 days, only 1 slip up. So that's just less than 10% of the last 10 days. But just because it's the most recent day, we have this bias to think that we've failed and now we want to stop or we give up. Don't give up, keep going. It doesn't matter if your streak diminishes or you lose on your 40th day, 400th day. You've done 400 days, you've done 40 days, keep going, try and build on it. Okay, it's just to try and make sure that you don't go on streaks of failure. That's the real important thing that we're trying to address here. Okay, now another thing that you can do is to track and gamify your workouts. So you track them so that you can gamify them. So if you've walked or running, as I mentioned earlier, and you want to progress, this is part of the progressive part of exercise. How do we actually know that we're progressing? It means that we would have had to have tracked it. So we would have said, okay, I walked 3 kilometers in 30 minutes. Okay, next time I'm going to try and walk 4 kilometers in 40 minutes. So I keep the pace, but for an extra kilometer. Or I might say, I'm going to do 3 kilometers again, but I'm going to go for 28 minutes. And you try and improve that. And you keep trying to improve that, and eventually you're running 3 kilometers in 16 minutes or whatever it is. So you constantly progressing on this and gamifying it, and it makes it a fun process to try and attack your goals. So The thing about this also that I would say that a lot of people miss is in gamifying it, they go full send and they fully gamify this thing. And what ends up happening is every time they go out to run or every time they go out to do something, they fully focused on just trying to improve their time or to progressive overload. And what eventually happens is it becomes unsustainable, and then it ends up being too much, and they find ways to increase the friction or find excuses to not go out and exercise because it's unbearable. So try not let it get to that point. But I do see the incentive of gamifying something. So do look to gamify it, but just be careful of going too far with it. Okay, so the point I'm trying to make with all these tools, systems, and habits that we're trying to build, or the mentality, mindset shifts that we're trying to make here. The point is that there's a lot of ways that we can combat inaction. So you need to try and understand your specific friction points, the things that are preventing you from losing weight, and try and address those specifically and go out and do more research and thinking to find ideas that are relevant to you. So not everything that I said might be relevant to you. None of it might be relevant to you. All of it might be relevant to you. I tend to have leaned on the example of running, but maybe you really want to go to gym, or maybe your thing is tennis or whatever. So maybe different things will apply to you, or maybe the things I've said apply in a different way. So you go off and you go plan how you can incorporate your combat mechanism, tools, systems that you're going to put in place so that you don't have to rely so heavily on discipline and willpower to keep your good habits alive and going and your fat loss journey a success. Okay, so we finally at the last point in the video, which is when I address the lack of care. This is by far the most important part of this video. I know I said it earlier, but I literally cannot stress it enough. If you don't care enough, you will forever be fat, no matter how disciplined you are, no matter how much willpower you have, no matter how much you know. If you do not care, you will never succeed. And it's a harsh truth, and I know, but it is the truth. Okay, so you obviously cared enough to click on this video, and if you heard me out to this point in the video, or maybe you skipped ahead, I suggested you skip ahead earlier if you already knew, you didn't have a lack of knowledge, didn't have a lack of discipline, or didn't care for it, and you wanted to find this part of the video, then you're here. So you cared enough to click and to get to this point. But you're still fat, so you didn't care enough to have actually action things in your life so that you could no longer be fat. I want to be compassionate here, and I'm going to try my best. So, but I also don't want to excuse it. So it's a tough line. I do understand that a lot of people are fat for different reasons in your life, and I want you to be heard. I want you to understand that I'm sorry and I feel for it. And I know that life is difficult and it throws curveballs at you. And for whatever reason, you've landed up in this situation. Maybe not your fault. Maybe it was habits that have been passed down from your parents, or whatever it may be. I'm sorry that you are in this position and that you are fat. But the thing that we have to realize is that we're here. We are fat. We need to fix this. There's something that you need to do. So the point is that you haven't solved it until now. You don't care enough. It's the harsh reality of it. And I'm going to show you ways so that you can start caring more, so that you can actually turn your life around and lose weight. Okay, so I think this example might be helpful. So just to prove to you that you don't care enough, if maybe you've thought, what is this guy talking about? This guy's an idiot. I do care. It's just so difficult. Hear me out, okay? So think of a good mother who has the resources and who cares for her children. Okay. Now, would we still consider this person a good mother if they forgot to fetch their kids from school for a few days in a row, and if they didn't feed their child on one of the days. It comes into question. Perhaps there was a lot of stress in this person's life, perhaps something else was going on. So maybe they're still a good mother, just a bad patch. We don't know. How about if they did not feed their kids for, let's say, several days in a row, almost a week? It's almost certainly something's either big gone wrong or they actually don't care enough. Now, how about if this person, this mother, didn't feed their kid for years or even months? Without question, this is a resounding no. They do not care for their children. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because I want to draw the comparison. In order to become fat, it is not an overnight process. It's not even a week. It's a long thing that takes many years, months to get to this point. And it takes years or even months or however long, depending on your current state, to get out of it. So the fact that you are still fat means that you don't actually care enough. So you haven't cared enough to get yourself out of this position. Okay, so it's been so many years or so many months and we are fat at this point in time, and yet we still say we care. So why do we think we care when our state and our actions represent neglect? So what you mean, I think, when you say that you care, is that you want to lose weight, but you don't actually care enough to have gone through the long process, the arduous process of having lost weight. Okay, and the harsh truth is that you will never care enough unless it becomes too late or you put in a conscious effort to care more. And here's how you can care more. So the first thing is to try and find compelling reasons to lose weight so that you can truly adopt this sense of the fat loss journey and of the sense of the journey, this difficult journey that you're about to go on. So compelling reasons could be you really want to be able to be a proactive parent for your children, or you really want to be a good partner to your spouse, or you really want to be able to go on those trips that you had planned that you were never able to go on because they required you to be fitter and all your friends were going but you couldn't go, and you want to reintegrate yourself fully and wholly into society, or whatever your reason is. So first, find that compelling reason. Now, the second thing that you need to do is you need to think about this fat loss journey. You need to think about fat loss. You need to think about weight loss. You need to think about health. You need to think about all these things on a continuous, non-stop basis. You need to think about it all the time. You need to write about it. You need to journal about it. You need to talk about it to people. You need to research about it. All your spare time, you're thinking about things. You need to put post-it notes up on your cupboard. You need to put it on your mirror in your bathroom. You need to put it around your house. You need to make this a front of mind thing so that it eventually becomes part of your lifestyle and part of your identity, so that it can invade your subconscious thoughts and you start to behave like someone who is on a fat loss journey and who is succeeding. So unless you make these changes, these conscious changes, it'll never be something that is a continuous process that you can carry on effortlessly. You see a lot of people healthy throughout their lives and never have any problems with weight gain, weight loss, whatever it may be. And you wonder to yourself, well, why is that? It's because it's already a subconscious part of their identity. They identify as a fit person, a healthy person, and so they live in alignment with that. And what we're trying to do here is, by caring enough, you find compelling reasons to motivate yourself to continue working hard, and you find that you think about weight loss and fat loss on a basis that is so regular and so often that it starts to infiltrate into your life and actually change your lifestyle. So you start thinking about things all the time on such a deep level, and you're wondering, and you iterate on your processes, and you figure out what strategies and tools, systems that you were meaning to create habits, why they weren't working, what was working, and you figure out ways to progress, better ways to track, and this whole thing becomes a part of you. It becomes part of your lifestyle, and that's the only way to eventually succeed, is to have this identity change. And the identity change comes from this change in your thoughts, and the change in your thoughts has to come from a compelling reason, so that you continue to think about these things, and it's not just a 1 week thing after watching this video. So the one thing I want you to take away from this video is that when all else fails, when your workout partner messages you the night before saying that they don't want to work out, or that they can't work out for whatever reason, something's come up, or when your discipline fails, when your diet fails, when all of these things fail, the only thing that will keep you coming back, keep you returning onto this correct path that's eventually going to get you to a healthy position in your life, is that you care, is that you still care deeply about your health, and you have compelling reasons behind you to keep you on track. So I want to encourage you now to go off and figure out ways that you can make sure that on a consistent long-term basis you can continue to care about this. Whether that's by keeping it front of mind, so you write some card and you keep it with you on all times. You write perhaps, I will be healthy again, or whatever it is, whatever your why is, whatever your reason is. You write that on your card, you keep it with you on all times, so it helps keep it front of mind. Or you go plan out, you sit down and you say, I'm going to go and do some research now and figure out what diet and exercise plan I can get on. Whatever these things are, I want to call you to action. I want you to, after this video, go now and figure out the way forward for you to try and make sure that you can care in the long term, so that you can set yourself up for success.